A parrot flew into a police station with a letter in its beak. The cops thought it was just another funny scene, until they opened the envelope. What was written inside shocked everyone. It was so insane that it froze the whole room. Who sent that letter? How did the parrot know exactly where to deliver it? The mystery just keeps getting deeper, and what happens next will leave you speechless. Subscribe to the channel now and hit that bell, because this story is just getting started. In the sleepy town of Pine Ridge, Montana, where most days blended into the next without distinction, Sheriff Jack Thornton had grown accustomed to routine. 20 years on the job had taught him that small-town policing mostly involved settling neighborly disputes and the occasional drunk driver. Tonight's shift promised more of the same. Paperwork, coffee, and the gentle tick of the wall clock marking time until dawn. The sheriff's office sat on the edge of town, a modest brick building surrounded by towering pines. Inside, the scent of old files and burnt coffee lingered in the air. Jack leaned back in his chair, rubbing his tired eyes. At 52, with salt and pepper hair and weathered skin that told stories of years under the Montana sun, he sometimes wondered if he'd ever experience anything truly extraordinary in his remaining years of service. As if summoned by his thoughts, a sudden fluttering of wings broke the silence. Jack looked up just in time to see a vibrant green parrot swoop through the open window, circling the room once, before landing directly on his desk. The bird's sudden appearance was startling enough, but what truly caught Jack's attention was the yellowed envelope clutched in its beak. "Well, I'll be damned," Jack muttered, setting down his coffee. "Where'd you come from, little fella?" The parrot tilted its head, its intelligent eyes fixed on Jack as it dropped the envelope onto a stack of reports. For a moment, neither moved, man and bird locked in a curious standoff. Deputy Sarah Miller, who had been organizing files in the corner, approached the desk cautiously. "Is that a parrot in Montana?" "Sure looks like it," Jack replied, carefully reaching for the envelope. The parrot made no attempt to stop him, simply hopping back a few inches and watching intently. The envelope felt brittle between his fingers, aged by time. Jack carefully opened it, pulling out a single folded piece of paper. The handwritten message sent a chill down his spine. "Need help. Trust no one." "What is it?" Sarah asked, leaning over his shoulder. Jack handed her the note, turning the envelope over in his hands. On the back, scrawled in the same hurried handwriting, was an address. "Pine Ridge Road, the old Westlake property," Jack said. Recognition dawning on his face. "That place has been abandoned for years." Sarah frowned. "Westlake? Wasn't that the bird trainer who disappeared about 5 years ago? Nathan Westlake?" 7 years, Jack corrected, memories surfacing. Nathan Westlake, bird trainer and local eccentric, reported missing by his sister from Minneapolis, who hadn't heard from him in months. "We searched the property, but there was nothing to find. The case went cold." The parrot shuffled on the desk, letting out a soft squawk that sounded almost impatient. "You think this bird belonged to him?" Sarah asked, offering her finger to the parrot, who promptly ignored it. "It makes sense. Westlake was known for training birds to deliver messages, thought it was a dying art worth preserving. Some folks thought he was odd, but harmless." Jack studied the address again. "Whatever this is, it's worth checking out." Jack decided to wait until first light. He provided water and some crackers for the parrot, who seemed content to perch on the coat rack for the night, observing the quiet activities of the small-town sheriff's office with keen interest. As dawn broke over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, Jack drove his patrol car down the winding road leading to the Westlake property. The old estate sat nestled against the foothills, surrounded by dense forest on 3 sides. Once a beautiful country home, it now stood weathered and forgotten, a shadow of its former glory. The rusted gate hung partially open, creaking in the morning breeze. Jack parked his vehicle and approached on foot, his hand instinctively resting on his holstered gun. Years of experience had taught him to be cautious, especially when following mysterious notes delivered by parrots. The gravel path leading to the main house was overgrown, but Jack noticed something odd. Portions of it appeared recently disturbed, as if someone had been walking this way. The house itself, a two-story Victorian with peeling paint and shuttered windows, loomed ahead. And there, perched on the porch railing, was another parrot, or perhaps the same one, watching his approach, with uncanny attentiveness. "You're full of surprises, aren't you?" Jack murmured as he climbed the creaking steps to the porch. The parrot fluttered its wings, but remained in place. The front door was unlocked. Jack pushed it open slowly, wincing at the groan of unoiled hinges. Inside, the air was thick with dust and the musty scent of abandonment. Sheet-covered furniture stood like silent ghosts in the dim light filtering through the dirty windows. Yet something felt off about the stillness. Jack moved carefully, noting subtle signs of recent habitation, a partial footprint in the dust, a cleared path through certain rooms, the faint smell of something other than abandonment hanging in the air. In the kitchen, he found a teacup on the counter, and when he touched it, the porcelain was still faintly warm. Someone had been here. Someone might still be here. Moving back to the main room, Jack noticed a bookshelf that seemed slightly askew against the wall. Unlike the other furniture, the dust pattern around its base suggested recent movement. Jack approached it, running his fingers along the edges until he felt a slight depression. He pressed, and with a soft click, the entire bookcase pivoted inward, revealing a narrow passage behind. "I'll be damned," he whispered again, pulling out his flashlight. The beam illuminated a steep staircase descending into darkness. Jack hesitated only briefly before starting down the steps, alert to every sound. The hidden room below was small and windowless, but someone had made it habitable. A makeshift bed occupied one corner, a stack of canned goods another. A battery-powered lamp sat on a small table beside a notebook filled with frantic writing. Jack flipped through the pages, most of which contained what looked like codes or rambling thoughts. But one message stood out, written larger than the rest. "If you've made it this far, please don't leave." Before Jack could make sense of what he was seeing, a sound from above caught his attention, footsteps moving across the porch, then entering the house. Moving quickly but quietly, Jack ascended the stairs and positioned himself to observe through a crack in the bookcase door. A hooded figure moved cautiously through the house, examining objects and checking corners, as if searching for something specific. Jack couldn't make out a face, but the person's movements suggested urgency and concern. Jack slipped out through another exit, circling around to observe from outside. The stranger continued their search of the house for several minutes before departing, heading toward the woods behind the property. Only when they were well out of sight did Jack return to his vehicle. Back at the office, Jack dug into the old files on Nathan Westlake. The man had been 43 when he vanished, a former aviary specialist at a zoo who had moved to Pine Ridge seeking solitude. He was known locally for his trained messenger birds, mostly parrots, and had few close connections in town. The case file was thin, with no evidence of foul play and no body ever found. The investigation had eventually been classified as a missing person case and set aside. The next morning, Jack arrived at his office to find the parrot perched on his windowsill. As he approached, the bird began to vocalize, not just squawks but actual phrases. "Barn. Help. Quickly." The words sent Jack back to the Westlake property that very hour. This time, he focused his search on the small barn situated about 100 yards behind the main house. The structure appeared even more dilapidated than the house, its red paint faded to a dull rust color. Inside, dust motes danced in the beams of sunlight streaming through gaps in the roof. The dirt floor showed signs of recent disturbance, particularly Near the back wall, where a pile of old hay was heaped, Jack moved the hay aside, revealing a trapdoor set into the floor. The trapdoor was secured with a rusted padlock that looked recently tampered with. Jack examined it closely before retrieving the small set of lockpicks he kept for emergencies. Within moments, the lock gave way with a satisfying click. Jack pulled the heavy wooden door open, revealing a narrow ladder descending into darkness. The air that wafted up was stale but breathable. Drawing his flashlight once more, Jack began his descent, each rung of the ladder creaking under his weight. The underground chamber was surprisingly large, a root cellar that had been converted into some kind of living space. Battery-powered lanterns were strategically placed around the perimeter, and Jack turned one on, casting the room in a soft amber glow. A cot stood in one corner, a makeshift desk in another. Water jugs and food supplies were neatly organized. Along one wall, someone had been living here, and recently. "Hello?" Jack called out, his voice echoing slightly in the confined space. "Anyone here? I'm Sheriff Thornton. I'm here to help." At first, there was only silence. Then a slight movement from behind a stack of old crates caught his attention. Jack moved forward cautiously, his hand instinctively moving toward his holster. "Please," came a hoarse whisper. "Are you really here to help?" From behind the crates emerged a man, thin, disheveled, with a wild beard and haunted eyes. Though the years had not been kind to him, Jack recognized him immediately. "Nathan Westlake." The man nodded weakly, his hands trembling. "Did Archimedes find you?" "My Parrot?" "He did," Jack confirmed, holstering his weapon and moving forward to help the man to the cot. "He brought your message to the sheriff's office. Smart bird." "The smartest," Nathan agreed with a ghost of a smile. "I've been training him for years, never thought he'd have to save my life." Nathan accepted the water that Jack offered from his canteen, drinking eagerly. "I've been hiding down here for almost a week. Before that, I was in the hidden room in the house, but it wasn't safe anymore." "Who are you hiding from, Nathan?" Jack asked, studying the man's frightened expression. Nathan's eyes darted nervously to the ladder. "Is it safe to talk? Are you alone?" "I'm alone," Jack assured him, "but I need to know what's going on if I'm going to help you." Nathan took a deep breath. "It sounds crazy. That's why I've been hiding instead of coming forward. I didn't think anyone would believe me." He ran a trembling hand through his matted hair. 7 years ago, I discovered something while researching bird cognition, specifically how parrots can not only mimic human speech, but potentially understand context. Jack listened attentively as Nathan explained how his research had led to a breakthrough in animal-human communication, one that certain private research institutes had become very interested in. "They wanted my work," Nathan explained, his voice dropping to a whisper. "When I refused to sell my research, they became persistent. I started receiving threats. Then one night I came home to find someone in my house." "So you disappeared," Jack concluded. "I went into hiding," Nathan corrected. "Changed my appearance, moved around. I thought I was safe until last month when they somehow tracked me down. I barely escaped, and the only place I could think to go was back here, the last place they'd expect me to return to. And the hooded figure I saw yesterday? One of them. They've been watching the property. I've been moving between hiding spots. Archimedes has been my only connection to the outside world." As if summoned by his name, a flutter of wings announced the arrival of the Parrot, who descended through the ladder opening and perched on a nearby shelf, regarding both men with intelligent eyes. "He found his way in through an old ventilation shaft," Nathan explained with obvious affection. "I've been training messenger birds for decades, but Archimedes, he understands. He's different." Jack processed this information, weighing his next steps carefully. "We need to get you somewhere safe, and then figure out how to handle this situation. I'm assuming you have evidence of what you're claiming." Nathan nodded, reaching under the cot to pull out a waterproof case. "My research. Documentation of everything. It's all here. I'm not making this up, Sheriff. These people are real and they're determined. Not because they're violent, but because what I've discovered could be incredibly valuable. I believe you, Jack said, and he meant it. 20 years as sheriff had given him a good sense for when someone was telling the truth. Here's what we're going to do. Back at the sheriff's office, Deputy Sarah Miller watched with wide eyes as Jack explained the situation. So he's been alive all this time, hiding from people trying to steal his research on talking birds. It's more complicated than that, Jack replied, laying out Nathan's documentation on the desk. His work isn't just about birds mimicking sounds, it's about genuine comprehension and communication. Think about it, Sarah. Birds that can be trained to understand context, deliver specific messages, recognize people. It sounds far-fetched, Sarah said skeptically. Sometimes truth is stranger than fiction, Jack replied, flipping through Nathan's research notes. The point is, Nathan believes these people are serious, and after looking at these documents, I'm inclined to agree. We need to keep him safe, while we figure out who's after him and how to resolve this situation. Where is he now? Safe house on the edge of town. The old hunter cabin. It's off the books, and only you and I know he's there. Jack ran a hand through his hair. I've put in a call to an old friend at the state police. This might be beyond what we can handle alone. As they spoke, Archimedes watched from his perch near the window, occasionally preening his feathers, but seeming to follow the conversation with uncanny attentiveness. That bird gives me the creeps, Sarah admitted. It's like he's listening to everything we say. He probably is, Jack said with a slight smile. According to Nathan, Archimedes is his most advanced student, understands context, can identify individuals by name, and delivers specific messages, not just repetition, actual comprehension. Sarah approached the parrot cautiously. So you're a clever boy, aren't you, Archimedes? The parrot tilted his head, regarding her with one bright eye. Sarah, deputy, friend, he said in a surprisingly clear voice. Sarah jumped back. Did he just... Nathan's been teaching him about us, Jack explained. Part of his safety protocol. Archimedes knows who to trust. Over the next few days, Jack divided his time between regular sheriff duties and checking on Nathan at the safe house. The man was gradually regaining his strength, though he remained nervous. Jack brought him supplies and updates, while also quietly investigating the situation. Through his state police contact, Jack learned that a private research organization called Avicom Technologies had indeed been pursuing breakthrough work in animal communication over the past decade. They had significant financial backing and a reputation for aggressive acquisition of competing research. On the fourth day, Jack arrived at the hunter cabin to find Nathan sitting at the table with maps spread out before him. Archimedes perched nearby, occasionally nudging specific locations with his beak. We've been tracking movements around my property, Nathan explained. Archimedes has been flying reconnaissance. There are at least 2 people rotating surveillance of my property and the surrounding areas. Jack was impressed but concerned. You've trained him to do that? Nathan nodded. Archimedes knows how to observe and report back. He's been my eyes and ears, but yesterday he saw something concerning. Nathan pointed to a spot on the map, about a mile from his old property. Someone new arrived. They're setting up equipment, listening devices possibly. They're expanding their search area. This is getting more serious, Jack said, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. I think it's time we bring in some additional help. No, Nathan said immediately, fear flashing in his eyes. The more people who know, the more dangerous it becomes. Nathan, these people aren't going to just give up and go away. We need to address this head on. Jack sat down across from him. My friend at the state police, Tom Reynolds. He's trustworthy and has resources. We don't. He can help us identify exactly who these people are and what legal recourse we have. Nathan hesitated, then slowly nodded. Okay, but carefully, very carefully. That evening, as Jack was finishing paperwork at his desk, Archimedes suddenly appeared at the window, tapping urgently with his beak. The parrot seemed agitated, shifting from foot to foot. "What is it, boy?" Jack asked, opening the window. "Danger! Cabin! Now!" The parrot squawked, the words clear despite his obvious distress. Jack grabbed his keys and jacket, calling to Sarah as he rushed out. "Something's wrong at the cabin. Call Reynolds and tell him to meet me there." The drive to the Hunter cabin usually took 15 minutes. Jack made it in 10, his truck bouncing violently over the rough dirt road. As he approached, he killed the headlights and parked a short distance away, approaching on foot. The cabin appeared quiet, but the front door stood slightly ajar, a detail that immediately put Jack on alert. Drawing his weapon, he moved silently toward the entrance, listening intently. From inside came the sound of movement and hushed voices. "I'm telling you, we've searched everywhere. The research isn't here," a woman's voice said, frustration evident in her tone. "Keep looking," replied a man. "It has to be here somewhere. And be quiet. We don't know when the sheriff might come back." Jack positioned himself beside the door, weapon ready. "This is Sheriff Thornton," he called out. "Whoever's in there, come out with your hands where I can see them." Silence followed, then hushed whispers. Jack was about to repeat his command when the door suddenly burst open and a figure rushed out. Jack moved to intercept, but the person was quick, darting around him and sprinting toward the trees. Before Jack could pursue, a second person emerged, a woman with sharp features and calculating eyes. Unlike her companion, she didn't run. Instead, she stood calmly in the doorway, her hands raised slightly. "Sheriff Thornton," she said with a tight smile. "I believe we need to talk." "Ma'am, you're trespassing on private property and breaking and entering," Jack said, keeping his weapon trained on the woman. "I suggest you start explaining who you are and what you're doing here." The woman remained eerily calm. "My name is Dr. Rebecca Harlow. I'm the Director of Research at Avicom Technologies." She slowly reached into her jacket pocket, freezing when Jack tensed. "Just retrieving my identification, Sheriff." Jack nodded, cautiously, watching as she produced a business card and company ID. He examined them without lowering his guard. "That explains who you are, not what you're doing breaking into this cabin." Rebecca sighed. "We're looking for Nathan Westlake and his research. I assume you know who he is, since you're protecting him." "Mr. Westlake has been missing for 7 years," Jack replied neutrally. "We both know that's not true," Rebecca countered. "He's been in hiding and now he's back." "Sheriff, I understand how this looks, but there are aspects of this situation you're not aware of." The sound of approaching vehicles interrupted their conversation. Headlights swept across the trees as 2 SUVs pulled up. Jack recognized his friend Tom Reynolds stepping out of the first vehicle, accompanied by 2 state officers. "Jack," Tom called out, approaching quickly. "Got your deputy's message. Everything okay?" "Perfect timing," Jack replied, nodding toward Rebecca. "This is Dr. Harlow from Avicom Technologies. She and an associate were searching the cabin when I arrived. The associate fled into the woods. Tom directed his officers to secure the perimeter and search for the second intruder, while he joined Jack and Rebecca. Dr. Harlow was just about to explain why her company has been harassing Nathan Westlake for 7 years, Jack continued. Rebecca's composed expression flickered. "Harassing? Sheriff, Nathan Westlake was a contracted researcher for our company. He absconded with proprietary research and technology worth millions. We've been trying to recover our intellectual property, not harass anyone." "Ah, that's not what Nathan says," Jack countered. "I'm sure it isn't," Rebecca replied smoothly. "Nathan is a brilliant scientist, but has always had difficulties with authority and collaborative environments. The work he was doing for us, training birds for message delivery and reconnaissance, was groundbreaking. But it belonged to Avicom under the terms of his contract. Tom interjected, "If this is a civil matter of contract dispute, why the cloak and dagger approach? Breaking into property, surveillance? Why not pursue legal channels?" Rebecca's smile tightened. "We did initially, but when someone disappears without a trace for 7 years, conventional legal avenues become limited. We simply want what belongs to us." "And what exactly is that?" Jack pressed. "Research notes, methodologies, and most importantly, training protocols for avian messengers with enhanced cognitive capabilities," Rebecca explained. "Nathan developed techniques that far surpassed conventional animal training. Birds that can understand context, recognize specific individuals, remember and report observations. The applications are extraordinary. And valuable," Tom added pointedly. "Extremely," Rebecca acknowledged without hesitation. "Both commercially and for security applications. Which is why we need to resolve this situation quickly and quietly." While they talked, Jack noticed movement in the nearby trees. A flash of green among the dark branches, Archimedes watching and listening. The parrot had led him here, warning of danger. "Where was Nathan?" "Dr. Harlow," Jack said carefully. "Regardless of any contract disputes, breaking into property and stalking someone are criminal offenses. I'm going to have to ask you to come to the station while we sort this out." Rebecca's composed demeanor faltered slightly. "Sheriff, you're making a mistake. Avicom has significant resources and connections. This situation could be resolved amicably, but if you pursue this path—" "Is that a threat, Dr. Harlow?" Tom interrupted, his expression hardening. "Merely a statement of fact," she replied coolly. "Legal battles can become complicated." Before Jack could respond, his radio crackled to life. "Sheriff, this is Sarah. Nathan's here at the station. Says it's urgent." Jack exchanged a glance with Tom. "Bring Dr. Harlow in. I'll meet you there." 20 minutes later, Jack entered the sheriff's office to find Nathan pacing anxiously, Archimedes perched on a filing cabinet nearby. The parrot instantly fluttered to Jack's shoulder upon his arrival. "Friend, safe, warned," Archimedes said distinctly. Nathan looked up, relief washing over his face. "He found you. Good. When I came back from getting supplies and saw people at the cabin, I slipped away and came here. I knew it wouldn't be safe anywhere else." Jack nodded. "You did the right thing. We caught one of them, Dr. Rebecca Harlow." Nathan's face paled. "Rebecca herself? Not just her assistants? This is worse than I thought. She never does field work." "She claims you. Stole research from Avicom," Jack said, watching Nathan's reaction carefully. "Of course she does," Nathan scoffed, running a hand through his beard. "It's what she's been saying for years to justify their pursuit. But it's a lie." He reached into his backpack and pulled out a thick folder. "Here's the truth. My original research predates any contract with Avicom. I was developing these techniques independently for years before they approached me." Jack took the folder, examining the contents. Academic papers, dated notes, photographs of Nathan working with various birds, all time-stamped well before his association with Avicom. "They hired me because of my work, not the other way around." Nathan continued. "When I realized what they wanted to use my techniques for, surveillance, intelligence gathering, I terminated our agreement. Everything in their contract specified that my pre-existing research remained mine." "Then why run?" Jack asked. "Why not fight this legally?" Nathan's expression darkened. "I tried, filed complaints, gathered evidence of their harassment. But 2 days before my court date, my home was broken into. All my evidence was taken, my birds released or stolen. My lawyer suddenly dropped my case, claiming conflicts of interest." Jack frowned. "That sounds like intimidation." "It was," Nathan confirmed, "and when I realized how far they would go, I knew I couldn't win through normal channels. So I disappeared. Started over elsewhere under a different name. It worked for years until someone recognized me last month." Archimedes squawked softly, capturing their attention. The parrot seemed agitated, shifting from foot to foot. "What's wrong, buddy?" Nathan asked, concerned. "Woman. Bad. Lies," Archimedes said clearly, his head bobbing for emphasis. Nathan smiled weakly. "He's been with me through all of this, witnessed everything. He knows Rebecca is dangerous." Jack considered this, watching. The intelligent bird with newfound appreciation. Can he really understand that much? "More than you'd believe," Nathan said. "Archimedes is exceptional even among my trained birds. His memory and comprehension are remarkable. That's part of what makes my research so valuable and so dangerous in the wrong hands." The front door of the station opened, and Tom entered, with Rebecca in tow. Though not handcuffed, her displeasure was evident in her rigid posture. Her eyes narrowed when she spotted Nathan. "Well, well," she said coolly, "the prodigal researcher returns." Nathan stiffened, but held his ground. "Rebecca, still trying to steal what isn't yours?" "That's rich, coming from you," she replied. 7 years, Nathan. 7 years we've been trying to recover what rightfully belongs to Avicom." "Nothing I developed belongs to you," Nathan shot back. "My original research was explicitly excluded from our agreement." Rebecca smiled thinly. "That's not how our legal team interprets the contract. Anything developed or refined during your employment falls under company ownership. Even if that were true, which it isn't, it doesn't justify breaking into my home, stealing my evidence or threatening me," Nathan countered. Jack stepped forward. "Dr. Harlow, Mr. Westlake has provided documentation showing his research predated his employment with your company. He's also alleging serious harassment and intimidation." Rebecca's expression remained impassive. "Allegations without proof. We've simply been conducting a legitimate search for misappropriated company property. If Mr. Westlake felt threatened, perhaps it's his guilty conscience." Archimedes suddenly fluttered from Jack's shoulder to the desk between them, fixing Rebecca with an unblinking stare. "Rebecca, threat, office, recording," he squawked distinctly. Everyone froze. Nathan was the first to recover, his eyes widening. "Archimedes, what recording? Show me." The parrot bobbed and flew to Nathan's backpack, tugging at a hidden pocket. With his beak, Nathan quickly unzipped it, pulling out a small recording device. "I forgot about this," he breathed. "Archimedes and we were developing a system where he could activate recording devices when he heard certain trigger words. It was part of our demonstration for potential investors before everything went wrong." Jack took the device and pressed play. After a moment of static, Rebecca's voice emerged clearly. "I don't care what it takes. Westlake's research is too valuable to let go. If he won't cooperate, make sure he understands the consequences. His precious birds would make effective leverage, and if that fails, well, accidents happen all the time." The recording continued, documenting multiple instances of Rebecca ordering surveillance, break-ins, and increasingly threatening measures against Nathan. By the time it finished, her composed facade had crumbled, replaced by cold fury. "That recording is obviously doctored," she hissed, "a desperate attempt to discredit me." "Voice analysis can determine that," Tom pointed out, "and I'm sure we can find the individuals you were speaking with for corroboration." "You have no idea who you're dealing with," Rebecca said, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "Avicom has connections at every level. This will never hold up." "Maybe not," Nathan conceded, "but I have more than just that recording." He turned to Archimedes. "Show them the rest, buddy." The parrot flew to the window, tapping on the glass with his beak. Outside, in the growing light of dawn, a remarkable sight unfolded. At least a dozen birds of various species, parrots, ravens, even a hawk, descended upon the station, each carrying something in their beaks or talons. "My network," Nathan explained with quiet pride. "I didn't just train Archimedes. Over the years, I developed an entire communication system. Each bird has been gathering evidence, documenting Avicom's activities. Photos, recordings, documents, pieces of a puzzle too distributed for anyone to find or destroy all at once." As the birds delivered their items through the window, Archimedes had nudged open, the evidence mounted on Jack's desk. Photographs of Rebecca meeting with suspicious figures, snippets of recorded conversations, even internal Avicom memos discussing illegal tactics to reclaim Nathan's research. Rebecca's face had gone ashen. "This is absurd. You can't possibly expect anyone to believe that birds gathered evidence." "The evidence speaks for itself," Jack replied, examining a particularly damning photograph. "And frankly, the bird intelligence you were so eager to control is now your undoing. Poetic, don't you think?" Tom was already on his phone, calling in additional officers and requesting a warrant. "We'll need statements from both of you," he told Jack and Nathan. "This goes well beyond harassment. We're looking at corporate espionage, intimidation, breaking and entering, and conspiracy." Rebecca remained silent, her cold calculation replaced by stunned disbelief as she watched the birds continue their coordinated delivery of evidence. "I never wanted any of this," Nathan said quietly. "I just wanted to understand these incredible creatures, to explore the depths of their abilities, not for surveillance or control, but for communication, true connection between species." Archimedes returned to Nathan's shoulder, nuzzling against his cheek affectionately. "Home now, safe now," the parrot said. Jack watched the interaction with amazement. 7 years of hiding, of fear and isolation, all because one man refused to let his research be weaponized. And through it all, these remarkable birds had remained loyal, intelligent partners. As the sun rose fully over Pine Ridge, casting golden light through the office windows, Jack realized he was witnessing something extraordinary. Not just the resolution of a long, cold missing person case, but perhaps one of the most remarkable scientific breakthroughs of the century, brought to light by a parrot with a message. 3 months later, the old Westlake property had undergone a remarkable transformation. The once abandoned Victorian home now stood freshly painted and restored, its gardens replanted and thriving. The barn had been converted into a state-of-the-art aviary, where birds of all species came and went freely through specialized openings. Jack pulled his patrol car up the newly graveled driveway, smiling at the sight of Nathan on the porch, a cup of coffee in hand, and Archimedes perched contentedly on his shoulder. The man himself looked transformed, clean-shaven, hair neatly trimmed, the haunted look in his eyes replaced by peaceful confidence. "Sheriff!" Nathan called out warmly. "Right on time, the others just arrived." Jack climbed the porch steps, accepting the offered cup of coffee. "Wouldn't miss it. Sarah's finishing up some paperwork and will join us later." Inside the house, the renovation was even more impressive. Gone were the dusty sheets and cobwebs, replaced by comfortable furniture and walls lined with books and research equipment. In the spacious living room, Tom Reynolds was already seated on the sofa, chatting with a distinguished-looking woman in her 60s whom Jack recognized as Dr. Eleanor Finch, the renowned animal cognition expert. "Jack," Tom greeted him with a handshake. "Good to see you. Dr. Finch was just explaining how revolutionary Nathan's work truly is." "The implications are staggering," Dr. Finch continued enthusiastically. "We've always known birds were intelligent, but Nathan's methods have revealed cognitive abilities we never imagined possible. The capacity for context-based communication, memory retention, even rudimentary problem-solving in collaborative settings, it changes everything we thought we knew about avian intelligence." Nathan settled into an armchair, Archimedes still perched contentedly on his shoulder. "I couldn't have done any of this without my partners," he said, gently stroking the parrot's feathers. "Every discovery was a collaboration." "Speaking of collaborations," Tom said, "I've got updates on the Avicom situation. The case against Dr. Harlow is proceeding. The evidence your birds gathered was admissible, a legal first, by the way, and several of her associates have agreed to testify in exchange for reduced charges." Nathan nodded thoughtfully. "And the company?" "Facing serious federal investigations," Tom confirmed. "Their board is in damage control mode, trying to distance themselves from Rebecca's actions. They've formally relinquished any claim to your research." "That's a relief," Nathan sighed, "though I never doubted their claims were baseless." Jack sipped his coffee, reflecting on the remarkable chain of events that had unfolded since that night when Archimedes had first flown into his office with a desperate message. What had begun as a missing person case had evolved into one of the most significant scientific revelations of recent years. "Have you decided what you'll do with your research now?" Jack asked. Nathan smiled. "That's actually why I asked you both here today. Beyond just thanking you for everything, Dr. Finch and I have been discussing establishing a proper research center right here, the Pine Ridge Avian Communication Institute. We've already secured grant funding," Dr. Finch added. "Nathan's work deserves proper facilities and a team of researchers to help explore its full potential, but with an important ethical framework. No military applications, no surveillance, pure science and interspecies communication." "The property has plenty of space," Nathan continued, his eyes bright with enthusiasm. "We can build appropriate facilities while maintaining a natural environment for the birds. And I was hoping, Jack, that you might consider joining our advisory board." Jack blinked in surprise. "Me? I'm no scientist." "No, but you understand the importance of trust and community safety," Nathan explained. "Your perspective would be invaluable as we establish protocols for this work. After all, you were the first to truly listen when Archimedes brought my message." Before Jack could respond, a flutter of wings announced new arrivals as several birds swooped in through the open window. A beautiful blue and gold macaw landed on the back of Dr. Finch's chair, while a sleek raven perched on the bookshelf. Archimedes greeted them with soft chirps. "My other partners," Nathan explained with evident pride, "each with their own unique abilities and personalities. Together, they form a communication network unlike anything previously documented." Dr. Finch adjusted her glasses, watching the birds interact. "The social dynamics are fascinating. They've developed a hierarchical system, with Archimedes clearly in a leadership role, but with specialized tasks distributed among different species based on their natural abilities. Like the raven there," Nathan pointed out. "Ravens are natural problem solvers and have excellent memory. Curtis has been invaluable for complex retrieval tasks." As if understanding his name had been mentioned, the raven, Curtis, tilted his head and made a series of clicks and low calls. "He says the perimeter is secure," Nathan translated with a smile. "They still maintain their surveillance habits from when we were in hiding. Old habits die hard." Jack shook his head in amazement. "I still can't believe how much they understand. It's like something out of a movie." "That's the remarkable thing," Dr. Finch interjected. "This isn't fiction or exaggeration. What Nathan has discovered is that birds, particularly corvids and certain parrot species, have cognitive abilities far beyond what we previously credited them with. They've always had these capacities. We just lacked the framework to communicate effectively with them." Sarah arrived just then, entering through the front door with a gentle knock. Archimedes immediately flew to greet her, circling once before, landing on her outstretched arm. "Hello to you too, Archimedes," she laughed. "Still the welcoming committee, I see." "Sarah. Friend." "Welcome," the parrot replied clearly. The deputy joined them in the living room, accepting a cup of coffee from Nathan. "Sorry I'm late. The paperwork for transferring those federal grants to the new institute took longer than expected." "You've been handling that?" Jack asked, surprised. Sarah nodded. "Part-time, I've been helping Nathan set up the administrative side of the institute. It's fascinating work." Nathan beamed at her. "Sarah's been invaluable. Turns out her undergraduate degree in biology makes her the perfect liaison between our scientific team and the bureaucratic aspects." "Which brings us to another reason for this gathering," Dr. Finch said, setting down her coffee cup. "Nathan and I want to formally invite both of you to be part of this journey. Jack on our ethics advisory board, as mentioned, and Sarah, if she's interested, in a more direct capacity as our administrative director." Sarah's eyes widened. "Are you serious? That would be, it's an amazing opportunity." "You've already proven your capabilities," Nathan assured her, "and your understanding of both the scientific implications and the security concerns makes you uniquely qualified." Jack watched his deputy's face light up with excitement and felt a surge of pride. The case that had started with a mysterious parrot and a desperate message was transforming lives in ways none of them could have anticipated. "I think it's a perfect fit," he encouraged Sarah, "and as for me, I'd be honored to serve on your advisory board, though I'll warn you, I'll have plenty of questions about bird privacy rights and the ethics of avian labor." Everyone laughed, but Nathan nodded seriously. "Actually, those are exactly the kinds of questions we need. This research opens up entirely new ethical frontiers." The conversation continued as the afternoon sun cast warm light through the restored windows of the old Westlake home. They discussed plans for the institute, the potential applications of Nathan's research in environmental conservation and animal welfare, and the safeguards needed to prevent misuse of interspecies communication. Throughout it all, the birds participated in their own way. Archimedes occasionally offering clear words of affirmation, Curtis the raven bringing small objects to demonstrate problem-solving techniques, and the macaw mimicking key phrases with startling accuracy. As evening approached, they moved to the porch to watch the sunset over the Montana mountains. The sky blazed with orange and purple, silhouetting the birds that flew freely between the house and the renovated barn. "I never thought I'd be able to come home," Nathan confessed quietly to Jack as they leaned against the porch railing. "Those years in hiding, I thought they'd last forever." "What made you come back to your property?" Jack asked. "Seems like a risk, returning to the one place they might look for you." Nathan smiled, watching Archimedes soar in lazy circles above. "The yard. It wasn't my first choice, but after they found me in Oregon, I needed somewhere familiar, somewhere I could navigate blindfolded if necessary. The secret rooms and hidden spaces were already established here from my early research days when I needed secure environments. For training. And the birds." Jack gestured to the aviary where dozens of birds were settling in for the night. "Most found me," Nathan said with wonder in his voice. "I'd trained so many over the years, released them to live wild. But they remembered. When I returned, they started appearing one by one. Archimedes first, then others. Their loyalty," his voice caught with emotion, "their loyalty saved my life." Archimedes returned to Nathan's shoulder, nuzzling against his cheek affectionately. The bond between man and bird was palpable, a partnership forged through years of mutual trust and communication. As twilight deepened into dusk, Sarah joined them on the porch, her expression thoughtful. "You know what amazes me most about all this? If Archimedes hadn't brought that message to our office that night, none of this would be happening. One bird made all the difference." Jack nodded, remembering the startling moment when the parrot had first appeared in his quiet sheriff's office, changing the course of all their lives. Sometimes help comes from the most unexpected places. "That's what I want our institute to remember," Nathan said firmly. At its heart, this isn't about scientific breakthrough or recognition. It's about connection, about recognizing the intelligence and value of other species and learning to communicate across the boundaries that separate us. As stars began to appear in the darkening sky, the birds settled for the night, and the small group of humans continued their conversation. Sheriff, deputy, scientist, and the man who had bridged the communication gap between species, united by an unexpected message and the extraordinary parrot who had delivered it. "You know," Jack mused, "in all my years as sheriff, I never thought my most important case would be solved by a parrot." Nathan smiled, "And I never thought my life would be saved by one. Yet here we are." "Here we are indeed," Jack agreed, raising his coffee mug in a toast. "To new beginnings, unexpected messengers, and the voices we learn to hear when we truly listen." Their mugs clinked in the gathering darkness as Archimedes watched from his perch, his intelligent eyes reflecting the first stars of evening. The extraordinary messenger who had changed everything with one desperate delivery on an otherwise ordinary night in Greenridge, Montana. Dear listeners, we hope you've been captivated by this tale of trust, courage, and communication that transcends boundaries. The story of Jack, Nathan, and the remarkable Archimedes reminds us that sometimes the most profound connections come from unexpected messengers. If this journey through the Montana wilderness and into the world of extraordinary avian intelligence has touched your heart, we've prepared a special playlist featuring equally compelling stories that explore unusual friendships and unexpected heroes. You'll find it by clicking to your left. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and leave a like on this video if you enjoyed this adventure. Every day, we bring you unique stories that explore the complexity and wonder of life. What was your favorite moment from The Messenger? Which character resonated with you most? We're waiting to hear your thoughts in the comments section below.